4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Welcome back to the program. We got the Senator from District 5, Brian King, is with us. Brian, welcome back, sir.
Hey, good to be on, Paul.
I want to talk about the Arkansas Legislative Council or Committee or whatever met on Friday, and I understand there's a $300,000 contract in play. What can you tell us about all this?
Well, once again, it's another task force. I mean, there's some well-meaning people in it trying to do what they can, but these tax farces have it's just so ridiculous. It would be a joke if it wasn't costing taxpayer money. I mean, at a time that you're turning out, bad people out of jail without service and sentences, hardly at all. You've got a crime problem, epidemic crime problem, with no solution from Asa Hutchinson other than a bunch of talk and another task force, and shoving everything off on the poor feds that are overburdened anyway, law enforcement, and that's basically what he's doing. He has no solution for it, nothing. And we're not even taking care of the truly needy on the disabled list. He's wanting to raise taxes for highways, everything else. Now we're going to spend $300,000 of people's hard-earned tax dollars on another consultant. Mm-hmm. Now understand, Paul, I've been down there 11 years. You know what? We've got an excellent staff people to help get information. You have the National Conference of State Legislators out there that have staff people to help get information about what's going on. You have a lot of different groups and organizations that you can bring in. If you really want to study this issue, once again, we're paying $300,000 to another consultant at a time when we could be spending that money on things far, far more better. Total waste of money. But, of course, this legislature just wants to continue to spend.
So let me rephrase. The premise of my question was a little misinformed. So it was the task force on taxes. Is that correct?
Yeah, no, it was them that hired this $300,000 consultant to help them figure out how to raise more revenue for the state to cover their spending problems. But it was the Legislative Council on Friday that had to approve it, so I brought it up just to try to pull it out and have a discussion. No, there was a few of us that, once again, there's a few of us looking out for the taxpayers. The rest of them go with Jim Hendren and want to spend the hell out of the money, And at a time, like I said, when we need to...
Uh-oh. Brian? Yes, sir.
I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's on mine or your end, but basically, Legislative Council approved this $300,000 that this tax force committee wants to spend. And once again, we're spending $300,000 of your tax dollars on another consultant at a time they want to raise taxes on the internet and raise taxes for highways, but they can send $300,000 to a consultant.
Unbelievable. At some point, and if you were to ask them, I feel like if you were to ask them to cut, like if they had to cut $300,000, I just don't think they can. We need to cut millions of dollars from what we're spending. But, the idea of them not going ahead with this is at the end of the world to them. It's inconceivable to most of the people down there to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just like when they came back with these possible part-time, work requirements and roll people off, and that's their goal. Well, that was good, but the reality is when you have 300-something thousand, rolling off 50, 60,000 of their estimates, which if you know anything about Jonathan Dismaying, the one thing about his estimates is they're all wrong. Mm-hmm. And, they hire his best friend as, you give a lot of money to Blue Cross, they'll hire, Dismaying's best friend. But I'm telling you, they have to be making much, much more drastic measures right now in state government, but they can't even don't even want to have a discussion on stopping $300,000 for another consultant, which if you need a consultant to look over it, this has been looked at before. We've had committees look over this before. We have staff people. If you need $300,000 on a committee, you don't need to pay that. And Josh Miller brought up, well, how about looking at spending? Well, Senator Hendren, all-time record spending Hendren, for, says, well, we already looked at spending. Well, he's right. They did. And they spent and spent again. Record spending levels set in Arkansas, and it's just another thing of how they just keep going and keep spending now.
Yeah. Real quick, Brian, I got to correct the record. Something I said when you dropped the call. I went off to the Centerton special election where 150 people voted. There's actually 7,000 registered voters in that town. It's a population of 12,000. I just want to. I got it reversed just a second ago, so I want to correct the record. Hey, Brian, let me ask you this. I just broke a story where Jan Morgan got uninvited last week from the Cricket County Republican Committee, and that they denied that it was because of pressure. And now I have an email from Doug Smith, who works out of the governor's office, that he is trying to pressure the Mississippi County Republican Party to not have Jan Morgan speak there. So, I mean, we do know at least now one county is being pressured to not let her speak. What are your...
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Yeah, this is about right. This sums it up. You ever hear Vanilla Ice try to explain the difference between this song and his song? It's basically where we are, folks. I was craving this all yesterday because of our whiteboard. Of course, reflecting the county committees. Yeah, that's... You gotta resist it, though, right? Kind of starting things on a lighter note, decent music always does that. But yeah, Under Pressure, that was the theme of probably yesterday's entire program, because we now know that the governor is putting pressure on actual conservatives. They're trying to control, and I said all this yesterday, demand complete fealty, sending his henchmen from his office to make phone calls. Now we have people claiming that on Facebook, that phone calls are being made. We have Doug Smith, the employee of the governor, emails and everything else. And look, this story is going to evolve, but all of this stuff's been going on behind the scenes, and we know this has now happened with the Craighead County, Mississippi County, and now we had an anonymous source yesterday saying that it was also happening with Baxter County. So here's my question. With all of the pressure that you're feeling across the state of Arkansas, if you dare point out that Republicans aren't just missing the mark, establishment Republicans aren't just missing the mark, just barely falling short. Folks, they're not even trying to compete. They're not even attempting to accomplish the agenda that we want them to. And there's some Republicans that want to, be on either side of the fence or kind of play, that would dispute that. They would say, no, generally things are getting better. No. At the top of the establishment, at the top of the Republican Party in this state, they are now actively working against their own platform. It's not that they're just not implementing what they said they wanted to implement or what they said they do support on the campaign trail. No. They now want to work against those goals to make sure they never happen in the future. So the question is, is this the end of the Republican Party? honest question. Are we watching the end of the Republican Party? Now, certainly with the election of Donald Trump, there's plenty of commentators out there nationwide that say, really and truly, the end of the Republican Party as we know it has commenced. You even have some people now, after last week with the debt ceiling deals, the DACA situation, being willing to talk with Chuck and Nancy. You know, you have some publications. I saw one over on CNBC saying the Democrat Party and the Republican Party as we know it is over. But my question is different than that. I'm talking about the political party that people that I know, that you know, have worked their entire lives to build, trying to beat the Democrats. And now the Republican Party is turning on itself. Now, they want to say that it's people like me that are the problem. By the way, breaking news, yes, the people at the top of the political establishment in Arkansas, they do see me as a little bit of a nuisance. But they want to say it's me, or it's you, or it's a county chairman or this county committee here that's now trying to destroy what they've built. I tell you, these political elites that are trying to take credit for your work, shame on them. You're the one. The people are the ones who have built this party, whatever it is, and you've elected people that care more about themselves, their power, not looking bad here or there. And you've elected some who straight up disagree and have lied to you with the platform that you thought they believed in. Are we witnessing the end of the Republican Party? Because it's the ones at the top that are trying to deny what the base wants and giving away to special interest and everything else. It's not us. We're not the ones who've changed. We're not the ones who've changed. Think about it. They are upset, for the most part, because, you know, this whole Jan Morgan thing with Jan being disinvited, and now they're trying to get her disinvited to these other places. This whole thing is about exposing what they have actually done. This whole thing is keeping the truth away from the base, not allowing their base to understand how bad it really is. Because the ideas, quite frankly, if we're honest about it, the ideas that conservatives believe in, limited government, make people who are in political office less powerful, not more powerful. So we're fighting against the human nature that says, well, I want to be an important person. And if now I start implementing what I campaigned on, that's going to make my power actually decrease. We have such an uphill battle here. My question, are we watching the end of the Republican Party here in Arkansas as we know it? A party that many of you have built. I think we may be. Do you think, because I saw somebody on there saying, you know, I saw Charlie Collins out there. Charlie Collins, state representative from Fayetteville. He's a Republican, or, you know, he's in the Republican Party. He wants to tax yachts, and he wants to have a millionaire's tax. He was actually confronted on Twitter. Somebody said that's not in the Republican Party platform, and he said, I have a lot of good ideas that aren't in there yet. I mean, here's a guy just admitting he's actually outside of the Republican Party platform. I heard him out there, and he was giving Asa Hutchinson credit for building the Republican Party here in Arkansas. Folks, Asa Hutchinson doesn't care about the Republican Party of Arkansas. He doesn't care about your committee. Asa Hutchinson doesn't care about whether you want to have a successful Reagan Day dinner or Lincoln Day dinner in your local community. He doesn't care about that. Asa Hutchinson cares about one thing. He cares about himself. That is abundantly clear. If he cared about more than himself, and he actually cared about the party that all of you have built, that a Republican Party that does have a lot of diversity in it, a lot more diversity of ideas than the Democrats do, then he wouldn't care if Jan Morgan were to come and speak. He wouldn't have his henchmen start to bully people on behalf of the governor's office. He wouldn't be doing any of this. They're willing to destroy it all. They're willing to get rid of the grassroots. Oh, the grassroots are useful in campaign season. The gullible grassroots, that's what they think of you. We're useful to secure your vote, but after that, we don't want to hear from you. And we especially don't want to hear unless it's behind closed doors. Oh, if it's behind closed doors, we can agree. Listen, I just want to tell you something. Before any of this, before any of the exposing the truth of who these people really are and what they really want to do and what they have done in your name, there were plenty of behind closed doors meetings saying, this, that, what about these things? And they're completely rejected. So if you're completely rejecting the very ideas that you campaign on, to not say something would be complicit in keeping the people in the dark. I don't want you to be in the dark. I don't want this information. This is the what's going on right now is the type of DC gamesmanship that everybody hates, but it's going on right in your backyard. Where are the people? Is this the end of the Republican Party as we know it? But where are the people? Where are your neighbors? Do they know about this? Do they know what's happened this week? Do they know what happened with this Jan Morgan situation? Do they know that Asa Hutchinson was trying to raise your taxes over and over and succeeded many times when he was down there? Do they know these things? Do they know that he spent money? Do they know he's increased spending almost $500 million in the 3 years he's been here? Do they know that he was deceptive in the way he convinced Republicans to go along with ending Medicaid expansion, when in reality, it didn't end it. They kept it, and that was the plan the whole time. Do they know about these things? A lot of them don't. That's the truth. A lot of them don't. You got to reach out to everybody in your sphere of influence. Everybody. And you got to tell them when the opportunity arises how bad things are. There's still people that think because Asa Hutchinson has a R next to his name that he is somehow doing the work of the people. No, he's doing the work of the special interests. He's doing the work of Asa Hutchinson, a guy who spent a great deal of his political career in Washington, D.C., a guy who somehow got to elected office in blue Arkansas back when Bill Clinton was still running things. What kind of Republican do you think that is? The phone number to call us or text us today, 870-275-9799. Under pressure is right. That's what they're feeling right now. Are we watching the end of the Republican Party in Arkansas? Think about this for a second. I want to reiterate this. The amount of corruption in the Republican Party right now, of people who are in elected office, is substantial. If you just take the former Senator John Woods, former state representative Mike Neal, and current state senator Jake Files, that they refuse to ask to resign. They refuse to ask him to resign, even though they don't want Jan Morgan to show up and talk about the truth or talk about the opportunity that massive Republican majorities have in Little Rock. They don't want her to show up. But they want Jake Files to stay in the party. Jake Files is a good guy. The amount of corruption that we know about, whether it's Michael Lamoureux, the governor's chief of staff, taking $120,000 from a nonprofit that was funded by lobbyists. They raised $140,000 that year, and he got $120,000 of it for a consulting fee, which that was technically, that's legal, right? The amount of known corruption is staggering right now among Arkansas Republicans. Staggering. The amount of unknown corruption, as I told you last week, about the FBI having meetings, about the fact that if you haven't met with the FBI, you should be worried, is, from what I hear, it's going to expand the people on the team. So at a time when you would think people would be kind of hitting the brakes at the top. They're not. They're playing defense. They're trying to stop people from speaking at county committees. And they're also primarying some of the most conservative members that we have. Joe, I hadn't told you this. I know you have been disconnected today, but State Representative Dan Sullivan, who's one of the most conservative legislators down there, who keeps his promises, now has a primary opponent. Yeah. Primary opponent, Republican, a guy by the name of Cole Peck. Colepeck. He is a doctor, and he's running for state representative against Dan Sullivan. And it's going to be, first of all, let me just say this. We've done this before. We saw Josh Miller be challenged by the governor. We saw Josh Miller, one of the most conservative people in the legislature, be singled out by the governor and attacked by the governor. And so now they're apparently going to do the same thing to State Representative Dan Sullivan. Dan Sullivan serves in Northeast Arkansas District 53. There's one giant hospital there, NEA Baptist. A little outside of his district is St. Bernard's. And I've already had phone calls from people saying, the head of St. Bernard's is behind this. Also, the nursing homes are behind this. Do you know why? Because the nursing homes are behind this because Dan Sullivan voted against tort reform. The tort reform amendment that's going to be on our ballot, the one that's egregious and limits what attorneys can make, as well as gives the legislature the authority to set rules of evidence in a courtroom, which is a violation of separation of powers. Yeah, Dan voted against that. And now we've got nursing home money trying to back candidates who are in the healthcare industry. That's where we are right now. Also, you got people that don't want to see Medicaid expansion go anywhere. We'll see, though. Primaries are the new general election. What an opportunity. What an opportunity to show the political establishment the real direction the people want to go. And we'll have to fight them getting Democrats voting in a Republican primary. And don't think Asa doesn't want Democrats voting in a Republican primary in this race. Of course he will. But that's the news. Where are the people? Keep listening. Keep telling your friends. 870-275-9799. Back in a moment. Arkansas small businesses are tired of taxes that are too high and regulations that work as obstacles to small business success. If you own a small business, it's time to take action. Now, I'm not talking about the local chambers of commerce. I'm talking about an organization that's actually run by small business owners and are fighting for small businesses right here in the state of Arkansas. They're called Conduit for Action, and they're on your side. Conduit for Action is here not to get something from the government, but to be left alone by the government. Think of them as your personal advocate for limited government at the Capitol in Little Rock. If you're tired of all the politicians talking with no results and ready for action, start outsourcing your government affair needs with Conduit for Action. Go now to conduitforaction.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforaction.org, and stand up for small business in Arkansas.
Welcome to the Arkansas Obamacare Hotline. We would be more than happy to help you enroll in Arkansas Obamacare today. We just need a little information about you. Let's get started. If you're disabled, pregnant, or looking for medical care for your child, the program is currently full, and there's no doctors to see you. Please hang up now. If you're an able-bodied adult, please press 1. If you're currently employed, we're sorry, but you most likely do not qualify for the program. Please quit your job and call back later. If you don't work and instead play video games all day with your cats in your grandmother's basement, please press 1. If you've never lived in Arkansas, press 1. If you currently live in another state, press 1. If you recently purchased a home in New Jersey for $750,000, please press 1. If your current identity has previously been used by another person, was created before your actual date of birth, or doesn't really exist, please press 1. Congratulations! It sounds like you're the perfect candidate to receive Arkansas Obamacare. Please stay on the line, and a hardworking DHS employee will be with you as soon as possible. While you're waiting, feel free to relax as your ambitions to gainful employment fade away. PHP Parody. Need to get something off your chest? Then call or text Paul now, 870-275-9799.
All right, welcome back. We're building a Liberty Machine. Ah, I see what you're doing, Joe. Yeah, bump it up. This is the theme song for Establishment Republican Party everywhere, I guess. I mean, this is, or maybe this is our theme song. I don't know. This is under pressure, man. This is pressure on both sides, maybe. I don't know. I mean, if you think about it.
No, this is the theme song for everybody in the state of Arkansas. We're under so much pressure, whether it be from the legislature or taxes.
Yeah, that's true.
So much pressure here.
Well, we've got the pressure mounting here in Arkansas for the amount of money that we're going to have to pay to keep Obamacare Medicaid expansion that Asa Hutchinson wants, because the hospitals want it, because healthcare companies want it. It's funny, you know, you're in the healthcare industry. Somehow you can, you know, I guess you're a good primary candidate, you know, to try to primary some of these folks. I mean, this is clear, man. This is just an attack. I don't know. Maybe Hutchinson wants to take another loss, or maybe he thinks, oh, I've got coattails. Remember Chris Steplock? Yeah, the guy who lost to Josh Miller. Yeah. Good for you. We'll see. Phone number 870-275-9799 is the telephone number. I want you to, we're going to have to wrap our heads around this Graham Cassidy healthcare repeal bill. I just retweeted Janet Crow on Twitter. Asa Hutchinson now has come out in favor of the new Obamacare repeal effort, which makes me want to just kind of run for the hills. But yeah, you can be sure that if Asa Hutchinson supports any kind of Obamacare repeal, that he is that it's not really a repeal. You can be 100% sure of that. Repeal in name only is what it would be. Asa Hutchinson couldn't get, you go back and look, folks, go YouTube it or Google it. Asa Hutchinson was on MSNBC, was on CNN, bashing the Republican plan. Well, bashing it carefully in a carefully crafted language setting, which is what he wants, carefully crafted language. And, of course, CNN and MSNBC were more than happy to have Asa on because they want a, quote, Republican to come on and criticize Trump and Paul Ryan. I mean, can you imagine Asa Hutchinson was to the left of Paul Ryan and to the left of Mitch McConnell back during the Obamacare repeal debate? That's who our governor is. And Asa Hutchinson wants, he says, no, I'm looking out for the state budget. No, you're not. You keep spending too much. You don't look out for the state budget. And all of Asa's assertions, he requires you, and if in order to agree with him logically, he requires you to forget that you're a federal taxpayer as well as a state taxpayer. Yeah, forget about that. Forget about that. You understand there's 1 million people in this state? Out of 3 million, 1 million people in this state are on Medicaid. Medicaid. Think about that. That's crazy. And that's all this argument was ever going to be about. A third of our population is that poor that they're on Medicaid. It's I mean, the state of things, let's change the license plate. The welfare state. That's what we're becoming. And yet they brag about median household income. They have all this article that we'll get to later in the show or later in the week. And it's really ignoring the fact that we got more welfare, so more household income is up because we have more welfare. That's what's really going on here. We got to take a quick break. We're up against the hard break. When we come back, new Conduit for Action article. Go there now. I'm going to link it in the Facebook link. There's a new Conduit for Action article about the nephews. Back in a minute.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
Thoughts on that?
Yeah, get ready for the Hutchisons. I mean, they sit there and even with me, they try to do everything to discredit. J.R. Davis gets on Ellswick and says, Brian King's misleading people. Won't specifically say what I've said that's wrong. I mean, I go out and say everything. I line out the facts and figures, and he says I'm wrong and doesn't come back. But I'm telling you what, the Hutchisons, you're going to see the dirtiest bunch of politics out of these people because, you know what? They've done a horrible job. You sit there and have all the things that we've talked about, you've talked about on your show, about what's been going on in Little Rock and all the corruption, and you start having all these things come up in the news, unfortunately, and you know what? The Hutchisons are all around it. And they're in power. And yet Asa Hutchinson never speaks out against any of that or does anything. It takes a monumental thing to force him to say it. And then Jim Hendren in the caucus, which I don't agree with, said, well, you know, recent revelations, Paul, have brought us to do this statement.
Talk about Jake
What
Files.
recent revelations have you been ignoring? And, you know, they just keep wanting to cover it up. But get ready for the Hutchisons because they know to hold on to power, they've got to do the most dirtiest politics out there possible.
I mean, this is something you would see from the Democrats. We got the email up on the screen right now.
It's dirty politics. It's the Hutchisons. It's just the way they are. And, you know, them, Jonathan Dismaying, a lot of them, all they know, they can't take you on the facts. They don't want to come on the Paul Harrell program and talk about this or that.
No, they don't.
You know, it's just like we go back to SB 96. You know, we said all along it wasn't going to end Medicaid. What did Jim Hendren do? Sit there and said, oh, no, it was, and everything like that? It never intended was to do it. It did, you know, so they don't want to do that. They just want to call you names. They want to sit there and say you're wrong. They want to sit there and say you're angry. They want to say, you know, they want to just sit there and say all this stuff. And it's dirty politics. They cannot continue to hide the truth. It's oozing out. Despite the press not covering it down there, it's oozing out.
Yeah. Yeah, so...
And they're afraid of Jan Morgan. They're afraid of the truth. So what do? That's the kind of cowardly stuff they do to try and keep people from knowing the truth.
Yeah, it really is. We're talking with Senator Brian King. I mean, I've got this email up on the screen here, and what Doug Smith, who makes $50,000 a year, working out of the governor's office. I mean, this is basically his henchman trying to do this, and I wonder if he's doing it other places. But he says that if Republicans disagree, they should do it behind closed doors and present a united front. Now, that's obviously not the philosophy that you subscribe to, Brian King. I mean, you call a spade, and you call people out if they need to be called out.
Yeah, I mean, it's so wrong that Jonathan Dismaying, he passes legislation, and then a few months later, Blue Cross Blue Shield, who now we give almost $1 billion a year to, hires his best friend as consultant. You just need to keep your mouth shut. That's what Doug Smith is talking about, folks. Doug Smith's talking about when you see corruption down there in Little Rock and you see something wrong, you keep your mouth shut. You don't go tell people. And you know what? When you go out there and start telling people, what do? They go try and tell where you're going to go to speak. They try and say, I'm supposed to speak at the Washington County Committee meeting tomorrow night and outline everything. And you know what? They're going to have their minions there. They're going to have their people there. And they're going to have, you know, as I'm already seeing, Bob Ballinger out there misleading people. And they're going to try and do whatever they can to keep the truth from being told.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, welcome back. 870-275-9799. You can call or text. Also, follow me on Twitter at Paul Harrell 1776 and like us on Facebook, please. Facebook.com/Paul Talk Show. Appreciate the increase in likes that we've gotten over the last 2 weeks. It's pretty incredible. Okay, over at Conduit for Action, newest article. Oh, my gosh. Now, Joe, what are those creatures there? Those are minions? From Despicable Me. Okay. I've never seen that movie. Say what you're going to say, Joe. I'm sorry. Look at this photo.
I'm going to be honest. I've seen all of the Despicable Me movies.
Are they good? What are they about?
There's a character named Gru. He's a villain. He wants to be the world's greatest villain, and then to help with a plan to steal an object from somebody. In the first movie, he adopts 3 little girls to sell, and he wants them to sell cookies to this guy, so he can make cookie robots to steal what he wants to steal from this guy.
Okay.
So he ends up becoming a good guy because the girls teach him how to be a good guy, essentially.
Okay.
And these minions are literally his minions. They're of their own individual race. He didn't create them.
2 yellow minions.
Well, there's a bunch of them.
There's a bunch of them.
There's a lot of them.
Okay, which one are these? These 2 in this photo here.
I don't know their name.
Okay, well, it's funny. You've got one that's just kind of staring out blankly.
But what I was saying was the minions, like these 2, like this. I never thought of this, but the minions are the perfect choice for saying these are the nephews.
Yeah, we're talking about Senator Jim Hendren, of course, and Senator Jeremy Hutchinson. The headline here over at Conduit for Action: the governor's nephews, and then there will be only one. Gosh, I wish I had a Highlander quote about right now. There can be only one. The success of Governor Asa Hutchinson's agenda owes much to his 2 nephews, Senator Jim Hendren and Senator Jeremy Hutchinson. They have fought tirelessly for their Uncle Asa's liberal big government agenda. Having 2 nephews in the Senate is a big advantage. To pass most legislation in the Senate, you need the support of 18 of the 35 members. Having 2 nephews in the Senate gives Asa a jump start, so he only needs to round up 16 more votes. You know, it's funny. I never even thought about that until just now. Like, you need 18 votes to get something passed, and now Asa really only needs 16 because of, well, I mean, come on. Blood is thicker than politics with the nephews and their uncle. The nephews have helped Uncle Asa hijack the Republican legislature from one that follows the Republican principles and platform to a legislature that follows whatever Asa wants. Whatever Asa wants. Now, I mean, this is really when you think about how dangerous political parties can be, I actually think they can also be a good thing. But they can only really be a good thing if we as individuals are using the apparatus to limit government, and we haven't done that successfully in a very, very, very long time. If you take it back to the pressure and the intimidation tactics that are going on right now, when it comes to at the party level and the local committee level, you see what it says there. Whatever Asa wants, Asa gets, and that's the same thing when it comes to Doug Smith, the governor's employee, going out and intimidating these people. Whatever Asa wants, Asa gets. I'm going to continue reading this. We're going to get Joe had to step out a minute, so forgive us that the article's not moving anymore, so those of you watching can't follow along with us. Jim flipped his position. We're talking about Senator Jim Hendren. He flip-flopped his position and jumped right in when Uncle Asa gave Jim his marching orders to keep Obamacare Medicaid expansion in Arkansas. By the way, Medicaid expansion numbers are up 1,600 enrollees were added to Arkansas Works or Obamacare, and the per-person cost was increased $3.24. So that's not a good sign. Just wanted to make you aware of that little change there. So he flipped Jeremy Hutchinson, the other nephew, also helped Uncle Asa by supporting or sidetracking bills in the Senate Judiciary Committee. And then there will be one. Jeremy Hutchinson announced, we told you this yesterday, he will not seek re-election in 2018. When we say Jeremy has helped Uncle Asa with his liberal big government agenda, you need to listen to what Democrats say about him. Listen, Joe, can you catch up here now that you're back? Scroll down to and then there will be one. I want people to see this. This is incredible. Look at this. Okay. This is for the Gazette. Here's what the Democrat candidate. So Jeremy Hutchinson's not running, and now we have a Democrat going to try to jump in. Her name is Melissa Fultz. Melissa Fultz had this to say, quote, "Since Jeremy isn't going to run, I felt I could do a good job," Fultz said. "I would have never run against Senator Hutchinson. He's very level-headed and works for the people of Arkansas." So this is a Democrat saying, if Jeremy Hutchinson had said, I'm going to stay in, she wouldn't have run. What does that tell you about the Republican Jeremy Hutchinson and the agenda he's also been helping Uncle Asa, enact? Man, Uncle Asa. With Jeremy Hutchinson not running in 2019, Senator Jim Hendren will be the sole nephew in the Senate. Sole nephew, period, I guess. Yeah. Not if we're talking about nieces, though. We'll get to that here in a minute. Senator Jim Hendren wants the Senate now to elect him as the top position, President pro temp. Winning the position would be a big boost for nephew Jim and Uncle Asa. Jim looked like a shoo-in for the top position, but some allies have begun to distance themselves, which is why Senator Hendren, by the way, feels the need to defend himself on Twitter in ridiculous, laughable ways and attack conservative organizations that have never changed. They're just exposing the fact that some Republican elected officials are the ones that have changed. Goes on, no, he will continue to have an important role throughout. And I'm sorry, Jim looked like a shoo-in. To gain the position, he'll have to count on the support not only of Uncle Asa, but also Democrats in the Senate. Now, let me stop here, and let me move on to another article. Just hold there, Joe. On Friday, we let something slip through the cracks. On Friday, the Gazette reports that the Legislative Council met and actually rejected a proposal to create a race relations subcommittee. This race relations subcommittee was the brainchild of Democrat Senator Joyce Elliott and Republican Senator Jim Hendren. You see, after Charlottesville, Senator Hendren decided to jump on the bandwagon of, oh my gosh, we got to figure out what's going on here, and so they decided to try to form a subcommittee. And I understand they needed a lot of votes, and they only got like 9 votes to say to in the affirmative, and it failed. I've speculated on Twitter that the reason Jim Hendren is doing this is because he's going to need the Democrats' support in order to get the leadership position that he wants, which wouldn't be the first time we've seen that in a legislative body down at the Marble Palace, because we saw it with Davy Carter for sure, when they had to have the Democrats elect him speaker and a small minority of Republicans elect him as speaker. The proposed subcommittee would have conducted a study of race relations with the goal of providing recommendations on ways to address, let's get this, historic and current divisions within the state. Now, this is who nephew number 1 is, Senator Jim Hendren. This is what he decides to react just the way the media wants you to react after the Charlottesville tragedy, which is to think, oh, yeah. I mean, the problem here is 50% of the country are racist and the other 50% are not, and we're about to, that was we've talked about what the media was trying to say. Not to mention, these are some of the same people that thought it was a great idea to separate Martin Luther King and Robert E. Lee days, not realizing that they were going to come after your statues next, and then they were going to come after the star on the Arkansas flag that stands for the Confederacy next, and how you're not going to appease these people by trying to, change history so as to not offend them. You're not ever going to win that battle, because they want the entire country, in many cases, obliterated from history. It's not just this part of American history or that part of American history. It is the fact that America exists in the first place. That's what they want gone. If you really know their ideology, why in the world would you try to play on any line if you really understood what was at stake? I find it so sad. I find it sad that we have some people who can recognize the enemy abroad, internationally, overseas, and fail to recognize what it is we're really fighting back home. They really don't think that our liberties are at stake from government. They really don't think that American government, as it is today, is a threat to your liberties. They don't believe that. Most of the people down at the Capitol don't believe that. It never has happened in America, so it never can happen in America. That's what they think. And they are blinded by their arrogance in that assumption. 9 House members on the council, 5 Democrats, 4 Republicans voted the proposal, while 13 representatives voted against it, according to records. Foes of the proposal, this is the Race Relations Subcommittee, said they agreed with the aim of the proposed subcommittee, but maintained that there are other ways to accomplish that. Anyway, I think the fact that Jim Hendren didn't get what he wanted, which was a subcommittee on race relations because of what happened in Charlottesville, partnering with the Democrat, I think the fact that he didn't get this is telling, but it doesn't really matter because I'm sure he's still been endeared to the Democrats. I'm sure the Democrats are like, oh, well, this is we're going to vote for Jim Hendren. We're going to make sure we don't want a conservative senator. We're going to vote for Jim Hendren. And then you just need a few more Republicans, and, you can get there. That's what Jim is doing. He's trying to shore up nephew number 1 wants to be the president of the Senate. Let me ask you this question. Based on what I just told you, what was my first question at the beginning of the show? Are we watching the Republican Party destroy itself? In this scenario, who's destroying the Republican Party? Jim Hendren? Or is it people like me calling them out? Who is it? In that situation, when we're talking about, well, let's partner with the Democrat, let's adopt the media narrative that the country's going down, that the country's regressing back to the Civil War, in the wake, by the way, Jim Hendren's doing this in the wake of the Democrat Party calling for every Confederate statue in Arkansas to be put in a museum. Who's destroying the party? You don't think Jim Hendren knew that? Of course he did. But you know what's more valuable to Jim in this case? Power. Power? Of course it's power. It's just all of that's on the peripheral. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, I know that's the politics of it and everything else. But you see, all of a sudden, towing the line when it's obvious is, it's like, oh, well, no. Because, to me, it's just completely transparent what's going on. Completely transparent. I need some power. I want to maintain it. So this is an olive branch to the Democrats. These are the people in the establishment. Again, the same people that won't say, hey, Jake Files, you got to go. Publicly, press conference, the Arkansas GOP won't say, hey, you got to go. Back to the Conduit for Action article, please. Are we already there? I'm sorry. I guess. Which is the party? Which party is what is the party without principles in action? Which one is that? Which one is it? Back to this. Okay, so back to nephew Jeremy as a lame duck. Senator Hendren wants the Senate to elect him as a top Senate position. Winning the position would be a big boost for nephew Jim. Jim looked like a shoo-in, but some allies began to distance themselves. To gain the position, he will have to count on the support of Uncle Asa and the Democrats. Nephew Jeremy as a lame duck. With Senator Jeremy Hutchinson not running again, does that mean he is no longer important in furthering his uncle's liberal agenda? No. He will continue to have an important role throughout the remainder of his term, which does not end until 2018. For example, number 1, he will be serving during the 2018 fiscal session of the legislature. And you know who else might be serving? Jake Files. Think about that one for a second. His uncle is likely to call one or more special sessions before the end of 2018. You know who will show up to vote along with Hutchinson? Jake Files. Number 3, he will vote on the next leader of the Senate, President Pro Temp. Hey, nephew to nephew. Which means he will vote for Uncle Asa's other nephew, Jim Hendren. It is weird that senators who won't be back in 2019 get to help elect the leader for their next session. Isn't that weird? They do that so newly elected members don't have any say. It disenfranchises entire groups of people. Makes incumbency more powerful, too. Number 4, he has a seat on the Arkansas Legislative Council / Joint Budget Committee. That will be held in late 2018, and at the hearings, he can help get favorable legislation recommendations on Uncle Ace's 2019 state budget, which will spend more. It's going to spend more. Now, Conduit Fraction has speculated in the past. They wrote an article from legislator to state employee and alerted you guys out there listening, reading, to watch legislators who don't run for re-election because they might actually get a future job with Governor Hutchinson. Getting a high-paying state job is so attractive, some legislators work hard to please the governor and have resigned to take a job. Asa's giving away jobs to loyal legislators, and him doing this has become commonplace. Some Asa lobbyists have resigned their legislative seats, or Asa loyalists resigned their legislative seats to get an early start on the reward of a high-paying state job. So, is Jeremy going to get one? I don't know. Who knows? But listen to what Conduit for Action writes next. What about Jim Hendren's future if his hopes are dashed and he doesn't make the team, doesn't get the position that he wants? It's only natural that the majority leader would move on up, right? I think people are tired of trusting the governor's nephew. First of all, the fact, it just looks bad, guys. The governor's nephew should not be in charge of the Senate. It's such a conflict of interest when it comes to, and it'd be one thing if we had results that said, no, they disagree on time, and they're standing on principle. They don't. No. What this is, having 2 nephews in the Senate, 2 out of 35, and then you have the entire executive branch. It's really a compromise of the separation of powers, if you want to be honest about it. Because it's family. It's just really weird. I mean, there's nothing illegal about it, not right, nor would I ever argue that there should be, but it's just the way things are. So let's talk about, listen to this. This is fantastic to me. I think this is interesting. The governor giving out jobs to those who have been voting on his agenda looks shady, but giving a job to your nephew would look much worse. Giving out jobs to relatives is called nepotism. That is why we don't think a state job is in either nephew's future, Hendren or Hutchinson. As a lawyer who represents clients before state agencies, Jeremy Hutchinson, then that may sound, as a lawyer who represents clients before state agencies, he's also a senator, by the way, Jeremy Hutchinson is likely much better off without a state job. Even after he leaves the legislature, he will continue to have status by being a former legislator and a governor's nephew. In addition, Jeremy Hutchinson is part owner of the 1836 Club, which is a private club that serves as a gathering place for lobbyists and legislators. His club will keep him in close contact with both legislators and lobbyists. What about a reward for nephew Jim Hendren? Nephew Jim's business is in plastics. It's what he does, plastic manufacturing. And that does not appear to be an avenue for Uncle Asa to help his nephew. I mean, what are the odds that Asa would give a bunch of taxpayer money to recruit an out-of-state plastics company to come in and steal all of Jim Hendren's employees away from him in the name of economic development? And that probably wouldn't happen. Nephew Jim, though, is also an officer in the Air Guard. Could Uncle Asa get him a promotion? While possible, it would look just bad. Therefore, that's unlikely. Jim is in the Missouri Air Guard, and Uncle Asa could either call the governor of Missouri and ask him to promote nephew Jim, or tell the Arkansas general to get nephew Jim transferred to Arkansas and then promote him later. Either action would be too obvious, so count out a military reward. Jim's best bet is to hang on to Uncle Asa's coattails for as long as possible and then seek Uncle Asa's support for a higher office. That could get him the financial backing needed to run for higher office, but he will carry a liberal, big government record into such a race. Oh, I know we got to go to break, but you got to keep going, Joe. Scroll down. Although Asa is losing a nephew from the legislature, he may gain a niece. Senator Jim Hendren's sister, Gayla Hendren McKenzie, announced she is seeking her father's seat in the Arkansas House of Representatives. Her and Jim's father is Representative Kim Hendren. We hope she is more like her father than her liberal big government relatives, Uncle Asa, Brother Jim, and Cousin Jeremy. We're going to take a break now. Back in a moment.
If you would like information about advertising or supporting the Paul Harrell Program and Conduit Media Group, call 870-275-9755. Join the fight against big government and advance the preservation of liberty by calling 870-275-9755. The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Who's next to Zipline?
Me, and I'm really excited about this.
Sir, I'm sorry. The Zipline has a 350-pound weight limit, and frankly, I do not think it would be safe for you.
Oh, that's okay. I self-identify as 180 pounds, so it's cool.
Sir, that doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm afraid we can't let you ride the Zipline. You're too heavy. I'm sorry.
I can't believe this. I thought we had evolved as a society. I thought this was America, but I guess this is just my plight. First slavery, and now fat shaming.
Sir, again, I'm really sorry.
You listen to me. If you don't let me ride, not only will I sue this company for discrimination, I will sue you for damages because right now my feelings are so hurt and I feel embarrassed because I'm holding up the line.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Watch it, mister.
Look, okay, I'm sorry. I just don't think it would be safe for you.
You don't understand. I self-identify as skinny. So you have to let me ride the zip line. The Constitution says so. I get to define my own reality.
Okay, fine, whatever. Ride the zip line. Mike, let this man ride the zip line.
Thank you. Now watch as my self-identity trumps your bigotry. See you on the other side, racist. Here I go! Doctor, thank goodness. What's the prognosis?
Sir, we've done everything we can, and you only have seconds to live.
No, you cannot say that. I do not self-identify as a dead person.
PHP Parody.
Hey, Joe, you were not kidding, man. We really cutting it close here. I went far over. Welcome back, folks. The telephone number, call us, text is 870-275-979. I'm going to take the last minute we have in this hour to ask you to support the program. What we're doing here is we're standing up for liberty. We're exposing the truth. You guys know all that. Well, we launched Patreon, I guess a couple of weeks ago. No, 1 week ago we launched it. And we had a successful week, and we have our Wednesday weekly video that's coming out tomorrow. And so just I would like for it's actually been it'll be 2 weeks on Friday. But anyway, we got 3 levels, and we're going to give you extra Paul Harrell program content for your monetary support to keep the show growing and keep the show on the air. So for $5 a month, you're going to get access to community message board, access to exclusive weekly bonus video for me, our Wednesday weekly. For $10 a month, become a Paul Harrell program producer and get a monthly list and be able to give your input into who you want us to interview and what topics you want us to cover, as well as the weekly Wednesday. And then $25 a month or higher, become a Conduit Media Insider. We're going to give you a Liberty Machine t-shirt. We're going to allow you to come, depending on our fundraising goals, to our invitation-only Conduit Media strategy sessions where I'm going to do live broadcasts and we're going to hang out and going to have a lot of fun. And those are going to be announced at later dates. But support us on Patreon, folks. This is a way for you to just give a little bit of money every month to help keep a show that you believe has value, and I know you guys do believe we have value, to keep shining the light on truth. It's patreon.com/thephp. That's Patreon, patreon.com/thephp. Back for hour 2 in just a moment.
Josh, Glenn, Sean, and Paul. This is Jonesboro's 1013 FM News Talk, KBTM.
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
But unfortunately, it's oozing out, finally. And that's what that's what this Doug Smith's saying. He's saying, folks, you know what? If you see something wrong, you just come tell us. And you know what? We've done that. And you know what? It hasn't changed.
Yeah. Well,
it's just still the same, and you're going to still see Hutchison's hired. They want to keep Hutchison's hired on retainer fees.
Yeah.
And, you know, keep getting checks. And I keep speaking out about all this Medicaid money that these guys vote on, that all of a sudden, Paul, winds up back in their pockets, their own personal pockets, folks. But Doug Smith and Asa Hutchinson, they want you to keep quiet about it.
Hey, let me ask you this, because I'm hearing about all these indictments that are going to eventually come down. And Brian, I thought of you, not about the indictment, but I thought of you the other day because my source told me that some of this stuff with the rumors about the FBI, it may go beyond GIF, and it may actually involve the Medicaid money you're talking about here. And I thought about how you have tried several times to just pass a Medicaid disclosure bill that would require people to have to say how much money they're getting from Medicaid, your healthcare entities. And I think now, if what I'm hearing is true, we kind of know why they didn't want to pass your bill.
Sure. That's why Jim Hendren. I told Jim Hendren. You know, he talks about integrity. I said, Jim, you tried to stop it. You know, he's tried to stop it. They haven't done nothing.
Yeah.
Asa Hutchinson didn't do anything. And let me tell you something. My bill would have took care of what's already been out there, Paul. If they would have took GIF money and then turned around and gave it to a Medicaid entity, and the Medicaid entity then gave money back to the legislator, they would have had to disclose that under my bills and efforts that I've had to do.
You can't.
But you know what? They don't want to disclose it.
No.
Jim Hendren doesn't want it disclosed. You know, so the little establishment down there doesn't want it. It just throws the top off their little party that they've been having down there. And like I said, this Doug Smith, I haven't seen the email yet, but based on what you're saying, what he's saying is, folks, you know what? If you see something wrong and corruption and something that just ain't right, you keep your mouth shut. That's what it boils down to them saying.
Yeah, because they're afraid of somebody like, Jan Morgan just going up there and just telling them what has happened. She's firsthand witnessed what happened with Second Amendment stuff down there and what the governor did and everything else. And not on top of all that, she's now aware of all the tax increases and things like that have gone on, and how much money they're trying to take from the people, fleecing us year after year. And I think she's fed up. I know you're fed up, Brian King. Hey, I gotta ask you, are you thinking about, have you made a decision yet about whether to run for re-election or not yet?
No, I haven't. Just still sitting here looking at things, and I really don't know, to be honest with you. I really don't. I mean, I'm still looking at it, and this is just still too early to decide. I mean, Bob Ballinger's out there misleading people already and acting like Captain Conservative, when the truth about his record and him playing with Asa down there and going back and forth and jumping all over different sides, and as we've pointed out in the Twitter deal, when you point out Bob Ballinger, and contradict him with the truth about it, next thing you know, he starts attacking me and blaming me. I mean, if you remember back to his tweets, when he got hit with the truth,
You're talking
his whole answer was, it was my fault.
You're talking about his support for SB 96.
And other bills. Yeah. I mean, it was like, well, if I would have showed more leadership. So, folks, all of Bob Ballinger's bad votes is Brian King's fault. I mean, and how come Ballinger fought all the Medicaid disclosure stuff?
Did he really?
Oh, absolutely, he did.
So he didn't support this last effort.
No.
He didn't support it. Now, was he the chairman of that committee? He
was the chair of that committee. He was gone one day, but he made it known to members that he was not supporting it. He made it clear. He said, lawyers should be untouchable. We should be special privileged people.
Wow.
He has made that very, very clear.
And we didn't get
that lawyers should be special down there.
Did we get a roll call on that? Do you know?
Yeah, we got roll calls. James Sturch never supported it. And then we find out, guess what? Jake Files gets $80,000 wired to him by somebody that sits on a health services permitting board appointed by Asa Hutchinson. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we would have already known these things has James Sturch stepped up and done what's right. But they protect these people. That's just what I'm saying down there. You may not have everybody down there corrupting everything, but you have a lot of them that have been protecting these people.
So I'm trying to remember. Brian, the day that your bill that did get out of the Senate committee that would have made Medicaid disclosure a thing, and it did get out of the full Senate, and then it died in the House committee. And you're saying which committee? Okay,
House state agencies.
State agencies, and that was Bob
Ballinger.
Ballinger.
Yeah, Bob Ballinger made it clear and supported. He has publicly made it clear that lawyers are special and privileged.
Well,
Paul.
I want to remind the folks that this bill was so hated.
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Watching some good friends screaming, let me out.
All right, welcome back. Hour number 2. Just listening to a little Under Pressure by Queen. Anyway, that's the theme of the week. Under pressure, it's what a whiteboard says. Obviously, we have the Republican establishment trying to fight you, the conservative base. Go ahead and fade us. Trying to fight you, the conservative base, the people that actually go vote, the people that believe that limited government is best. A lot of pressure, but they too. And this was a point that didn't escape us last hour, thanks to Joe. They too are feeling the pressure. The entire state of Arkansas is feeling the pressure. Really are. I mean, everybody in this state is feeling the pressure of higher taxes, more regulations, more money coming out of our pocket after they came out of session this time than before. We're all feeling that pressure of wanting to succeed. They're feeling the pressure of potentially losing some of their power if more and more of you figure out what they've done. Anyway, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. What do we want to do next here? Should we talk about... let's talk about Medicaid real quick. We have reports from last week or this weekend that the Medicaid expansion rolls are up. They're on the up and up. For the month of August, 1,600 enrollees were added to the Arkansas Works, which is Obamacare. That's Asa Hutchinson's version of Obamacare. The per-person costs increased $3.24. Those enrolled as of August 31st, Arkansas Works, the expanded part of Medicaid, blah, 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 919 people who were covered under Asa Hutchinson's Arkansas Works plan. The other 23,864 people were assigned to traditional Medicaid program because they were considered medically frail with health care needs that the private plans typically don't cover. They love to do that. You know what? They don't just like... A lot of people don't know this. Do you know why people like Charlie Collins? Do you know why they claim that Arkansas saves or so much money? It's not just the fact that you have all of this money that came in and we don't have to pay it for 3, 4, 5 years. We don't have to pay our percentage. You know, federal government pays 100% of the expanded Obamacare. It's not just that. You know, we're paying 10% this year, or I'm sorry, we're paying, was it 5% this year? Or is it 1%, 2%? I can't remember. It escapes me right now, but it's not relevant to what I'm trying to say. You know what they also like to do? Is they also like to somehow transfer people from traditional Medicaid onto the expanded population. Say, Paul, how is that possible? Well, and why would that be beneficial? Well, think about it. Think about it. Right now, in traditional Medicaid, we pay 30%. The federal government pays 70%. In the last 5 years, you transfer people over to the expanded population, which that's 100% covered for the time being, right? Or was. Now, all of a sudden, the state doesn't have to pay that 30%. Now, they hoop and holler and they say, we've saved money. We've saved money. That is the scam. It's part of the scam. If you can ever get anyone to actually admit it or talk about it, it's part of the scam. It really, truly is. I briefly mentioned this, but I can't help it, and it's time to do this again. I can't help but do this. Speaking of the fact that the governor is now targeting State Representative Dan Sullivan. That's right, State Representative Dan Sullivan being targeted by the governor, getting a primary opponent. I think Dan's going to be on the program Thursday. State Representative Sullivan is. Ace is doing exactly to Dan Sullivan what he attempted to do to, or no, what he did to Josh Miller. So this is Josh Miller 2.0. And we will see what happens. I think, again, it's an opportunity to really show where people are, where, you know, how we really do reject where you're taking us. All that being said, State Representative Dan Douglas, Joe, your favorite person, Dan Douglas, he is running for re-election out of Bentonville. Is there anybody that knows anybody in Bentonville that's going to just say, can somebody please challenge Dan Douglas? I mean, if we're talking about primaries, somebody needs to primary Dan Douglas. This man carried every tax increase the establishment wanted. Every one of them.
Between the Dans, Douglas is the one that needs the primary opponent, not Sullivan.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, what kind of world do we live in? Dan Douglas isn't being primaried right now, and he's part of the good old boy system. A cattle farmer, commercial real estate manager. He's been down there 3 terms. And he's the chairman of the House Agriculture and Forestry. I can't even read. I feel like I just need to get into the twang, get into it. In order to do that, though, I really need to. I don't know. I need to listen to it. Can you give me some audio over here, Joe? Can you give me my audio? Let me see here. I need to hear him if I'm going to.
Just a couple of comments. One, Mr. Waters said that this is an unconstitutional bill, and it is. And at the present time, due to the Supreme Court decision in 1992 of Quill versus North Dakota.
Yeah.
But there's also another law that the Supreme Court wrote a decision on.
I think this is relevant today.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make just a couple of comments. One, Mr. Waters said that this is an unconstitutional bill, and it is. And at the present time, due to the Supreme Court decision in 1992 of Quill versus North Dakota. But there's also another law that the Supreme Court wrote a decision on. It's called Roe versus Wade, and every time we pass an anti-abortion bill out of here, this building, we are passing an unconstitutional law.
So Dan Douglas, boy, that's there's so much stuff wrong with that, but so many things. I've talked about it before. But he's advocating for the internet sales tax. This took place back on March the 28th of this year. On March the 28th of this year, Dan Douglas was advocating to pass what he admits is an unconstitutional tax on your internet purchases. Interestingly enough, if you go and you look at Josh Waters on Twitter, right? You can go look at Josh Waters. He is at Josh Waters. He reports that a 5-0 decision has made the Quill case from the Supreme Court clear. Quote, Quill remains the controlling precedent on the issue of the Commerce Clause limitations on interstate collection of sales and use taxes. So, what is Josh Waters referring to? Well, he's referring to a decision in the Supreme Court of the state of South Dakota saying essentially, look, you can't pass an internet tax and expect that South Dakota is going to have jurisdiction in Arkansas, or South Dakota is going to tell some business owner in New York that they owe South Dakota sales tax. That makes no sense. That makes no sense unless you're this guy.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make just a couple of comments. One, Mr. Waters said that this is an unconstitutional bill, and it is.
I mean, come on. Knowing, by the way, the whole abortion argument, I just do have to clarify. Knowing you're passing something that may wind up in court when we're talking about life and death, black and white, abortion is a lot different than knowing you're passing something to try to tax somebody when you don't have the authority to take money from them. One is a life or death situation, and we don't have a choice but to do the right thing. The other is giving the government more money and going outside of the legal bounds to do it. But that's not how they think. I mean, they only think in terms of, well, what's the truth? Oh, the truth today is what I need, the group of words that I need to put together to get me to the next issue or the next election. I mean, that's what the truth is to these folks. Dan Douglas, everybody.
There's four of the biggest fears to man are dying, conspiracy theories, change, and that's what this is. It's a little bit of change, and people are scared of change because you don't know what's going to happen. Under this, you do know what's going to happen because it's spelled out what can and what cannot happen, and what can change and what cannot change.
Dan Douglas, everybody. This is the guy running for re-election. This is the guy as a Republican. Now, I'm sorry, but the Republican Party, man, I mean, I know he's loyal to Asa, and by my same logic, if I say that the Republican Party should be, if I say the Republican Party should be kicking Dan Douglas out, well, by that logic, then they'd have to kick Asa out because Asa is the one behind all this. But we have a crisis here in Arkansas. We have a crisis where Democrats are now Republicans. Democrats knew they couldn't get elected as a Democrat, so they run as a Republican. And we have Democrats switching to the Republican Party now openly, and they get celebrated. Oh, come on in, and there's no vetting process. And I'm told, by the way, well, if you don't like it, that's what primaries are for. But then I read on Facebook some Republican Party officials say, no, don't primary. Don't primary. Whatever you do, no, don't primary. I don't know who to believe. I don't know which Republican official to believe, the one that was on my show or the one that's on Facebook now telling people not to primary other people. It's just frustrating. Very frustrating. Stop with the games. Just stop. Just don't. Like, I don't understand. I mean, is it inevitable? You know, like I'm 33. Is this, I mean, it's just like, oh, you don't understand. You're young. You're idealistic. I don't feel so young, by the way. But you're young. You're idealistic, Paul. You'll be just like the political party establishments of the world when you get to be our age. You just haven't lived long enough. I mean, is that... I guarantee that's what some of them think. If I become that way, I hope I don't have a platform to speak, just so you know. What do we go? Oh, yeah, Dan Douglas, everybody, running for re-election.
To present HB 1725.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee. And I guarantee you this one doesn't have anything to do with highways or tax increases today. It's just the opposite. Although I've had people say it's a power grab, it's a trying to steal money, but it is nothing near that. The propaganda is rampant.
Doing here, we've had several bills come before us that try to that are combining agencies, and we keep hearing that this is the tone of this administration to bring efficiencies to state government. So does this align with, what we're seeing with other bills that are bringing these efficiencies as we, combine agencies?
If I might, Representative Douglas, sounds like I'm talking to myself.
Yeah.
I might ask Miss Amy Fetcher to come down here and join us with the governor's Department of Efficiency. Miss Amy.
Ms. Fetcher, if you don't mind introducing yourself for the record, you'll be recognized.
And for the record, I always try to get a good-looking woman sitting beside me.
Gosh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Amy.
State Representative Dan Douglas hitting on the governor's employee, Amy Fetcher. I always like, is what he says, I always like sitting extra track. For the record, just in case, for the record, I want to get this out there. Who says that? For the record, I just have to say, I'm a normal, red-blooded American man, just like all of you, just like everybody else. For the record. Anyway, Dan Douglas running for re-election. No, nobody's going to primary. No, nobody. We got to take a break. Back in a minute.
Protecting your business means protecting your data. But is your business really prepared to handle the growing threat of things like cybercriminals and ransomware? At iTex, they're committed to deploying the best security solutions to protect your business and your bottom line. Security threats are constantly evolving. So are security needs. Be proactive now and equip your business with the best cybersecurity available with iTex. Call them today for a free consultation at 870-336-9778. That's 870-336-9778 or itexusa.com.
Arkansas small businesses are tired of taxes that are too high and regulations that work as obstacles to small business success. If you own a small business, it's time to take action. Now, I'm not talking about the local chambers of commerce. I'm talking about an organization that's actually run by small business owners and are fighting for small businesses right here in the state of Arkansas. They're called Conduit for Action, and they're on your side. Conduit for Action is here not to get something from the government, but to be left alone by the government. Think of them as your personal advocate for limited government at the Capitol in Little Rock. If you're tired of all the politicians talking with no results and ready for action, start outsourcing your government affair needs with Conduit for Action. Go now to conduitforaction.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforaction.org and stand up for small business in Arkansas.
In a world full of constituents with social media accounts, bloggers just looking to increase their page views, and a talk radio host who generally is just the worst, how are Little Rock's elite supposed to conduct business with such a lack of privacy? Introducing the 1835 Club, older and more refined than other clubs that claim discretion. The 1835 Club is for seasoned political veterans that want to conduct the highest form of aristocratic business with the public's money. Are you a schemer? Do you someday want a guaranteed flow of taxpayer money to support your business? Is it your dream to see the .gov domain at the end of your business website? Don't listen to the imitators. The 1835 Club is the place where corrupt politicians and businessmen hatch their next crony schemes. At the 1835 Club, we make lobbying safe and legal. Ethics. Why, of course. All business is done in an ethical manner. Just look for the sign above the door that reads, Loophole. Are you tired of the Capitol Police restricting your access to the roof after a perfectly good night of drinking? The 1835 Club has libations and a perfectly good roof. Other crony clubs that promise discretion try to lure you in by advertising bars made out of aeroplanes. Well, at the 1835 Club, instead of an airplane fuselage, we've got a space shuttle. No, not a bar. We've got an actual space shuttle that makes a daily run to the moon so members of the 1835 Club can have some real privacy away from the bloggers and taxpayers. Are you an Arkansas aristocrat? Do you want to be? It's the 1835 Club, and we work tirelessly to make sure the good old boy system remains alive and well. Join today.
Disclaimer. The 1835 Club reserves the right to deny membership to anyone who has principles. Any talk of the Declaration of Independence or the Constitution must be done in jest or, at the very least, with a condescending tone. And finally, the 1835 Club will be given a 25% commission of any agreements made between politicians and the business community.
PHP Parody. Watch Paul live at paulharrell.com. It's free and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
All right.
Because the Liberty Machine
I think we're
never
educating
sleeps.
people. These are the people making the decisions. These are the intellectual giants who are making the decisions to raise your taxes. People who say stuff like this when they're trying to raise your
The
taxes.
highways in this state are one of the most important aspects of what state government does for our citizens.
And we've already given you money to pay for those things.
I could go on and on
I'm sure
about
you could.
the wonders of highways. One thing it will do, let me, I just thought of this one.
Because I'm on the floor and I'm
The first
just
year, it'd create
ad-libbing.
2,300 jobs. We want to talk about economic development. It would create
By
2,300
passing a
private
gas
sector
tax. This is talking
jobs.
about raising your fuel taxes.
Here's the whole thing about highways.
Tell me.
It takes money to put asphalt on the ground.
Really?
It takes money to pour concrete.
That
It
we're
takes money to
already
put steel
giving
in
you.
bridges.
Oh, I like that one. Yeah,
And there's
yeah,
only
that's a
two
good one.
ways to get it. Use money we already have, which whenever you look at the budget, we're tight on our budget. We don't have that excess money there. Or you can raise revenue.
Yeah, what else, Dan?
Well, we're not coming here. I'm not coming here today to ask you all to raise the revenue. I'm coming here today to ask you all to let the citizens of the state of Arkansas decide if this is the way they want to fund their highway system.
I got to get in character here. If I'm
About filling chuck holes. I heard somebody say this morning, I was talking to them about it,
It's in front of the whole house.
and they said, what about the single mom at home with 2 kids that's just barely getting by? I'm going to ask her for a fuel tax increase. Well, the price of fuel varies so much. I remember last summer I paid $1.65. It's $2.05, $2.10 right now.
These are the folks just pontificating about how to take more money from you.
Everyday life that we live with.
Hang on. Keep it going.
But what's more troubling to that single mom is whenever she hits a chuck hole or chug hole, whichever one you want to call it,
I've
pothole.
never heard it called that before.
And they run a tire, they knock the front end out from under their car.
I want to remind you that he went down to the Rural Development Conference, Dan Douglas, and when he didn't get the tax increase he wanted. Thankfully, we had enough conservatives playing defense. And he said, well, maybe the General Assembly, maybe they'll take funding highways a little bit different when people start dying on the highways.
And it cost them $100 or several $100s to repair it. And my final remark, I was presented this bill in the Transportation Committee the other day.
Tell us, Dan.
And after it passed out of the Transportation Committee overwhelmingly, I did what a lot of us do, especially when we get older, Representative Hendren. I went into the men's room, and as I was standing there staring at the wall, as we all do, I heard a voice beside me.
Nobody was there, though. Nobody was there.
No, it wasn't. But it was a man that said, now listen to this. The man said, one thing you didn't mention was...
The man was the devil. I'm just going to say that right now. Because you're trying to get more money from the people. That's the way I feel about it, folks. That's the way I feel about it. But you know what? This guy's running for re-election.
Let me tell you about the internet tax. Let me just explain this to you. Okay?
Oh, yeah, explain it to us.
These companies where you buy stuff, whether it's from Zappos.com or Jet.com, they're going to send you
a bill.
A statement on all the purchases that you've made throughout the year. And it will tell you how much money you have spent with VictoriasSecret.com or wherever you shop.
Zappos.com.
Okay? They're going to help you in your record keeping.
Really likes to
this form, this notification that they send out at the end of the year, they also send a copy to DF and 9.
Who doesn't want the state government spying on your internet purchases so they can collect a tax from you?
Paul Harrell, weekdays from 4 to 6. Learn more at paulharrell.com.
That at one of the House committee the House committee meetings, somebody made a motion to do not pass, which never happens. Never have.
According to his side, has a medical health supply company.
Yes, he does. He does have a medical health
supply company. And where is Missy Urban on this? She's opposed it too. She goes out and tells people, yeah, she's for this stuff, but folks, when it gets down there in Little Rock, they do something else. And then when you sit there and criticize or say something different, well, guess what? Here comes the slander. Here comes the dirty politics. Here comes everything. Folks, they don't want to tackle the issue, okay? They want to they want to destroy the person saying it. That's the Hutchison way of doing things right now.
Yeah.
And the establishment way down there.
Unbelievable.
They want to destroy the person. They don't want to talk about the problem, the issue, get that out in front of people. They want to sit there and mislead people. And then turn around and destroy the person, just like this Mississippi County deal.
Yep, that's exactly right. And we'll see what else they do. They're going to try to do something. I mean, right now, just the fact that I've reported it means that there's going to be more bullying. I mean, these are the type of guys that double down. They believe they have full authority and that they have the right, they think, to demand and expect complete loyalty to everything that the governor wants. And the local parties are sick of it, I'll tell you that much.
And remember when we spoke out against Davy Carter multiple times and all this, and he's a Republican and everything, I heard that Davy Carter's now a registered Democrat.
I believe I heard that too. That he switched in January to becoming a registered Democrat, the former Arkansas Republican Speaker of the House.
Yeah, and you have nothing from Dole Webb. Dole Webb has had missed opportunities to speak up and say something and stick up the party and do what's right.
He really has. And the fact that Doyle Webb hasn't called for Jake Files to resign is unbelievable to me. I can't. I don't understand that.
But look at the money connections. I mean, folks, when you start talking about the money connections out there, things make sense. And I'm telling you what, they have put this state into trouble. Like I said, we have an epidemic crime problem and no money, no solutions from Asa Hutchison, other than to criticize and stop Brian King from actually taking measures to do that.
Senator Brian King, I appreciate it. Thank you for being so outspoken about this, because it really does shine a light. And there are more and more people every day who are listening to this program and other outlets like it, and they're getting the truth. So we just got to keep trucking, okay?
Yeah. Folks, get ready for the dirtiest politics you've ever seen. Personal. They want to destroy the people out there trying to get you the truth more than they want to tackle the issue.
Brian King, I appreciate it, sir.
All right, thanks, Paul.
All right, folks, got to take a break. Back in a minute.
Need to get something off your chest? Then call or text Paul now, 870-275-9799.
Gentlemen, welcome back to the program. Thanks so much for being with us. My name is Paul, and the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. That's what you're listening to right now. I know, and I think we will. We're going to save more. Let's do Friday at 4. We're going to do more Dan Douglas stuff. Tune in Friday at 4. We may make it the Dan Douglas Hour, just because our friends in Bentonville have an easier time listening to us on Fridays, okay, because of an affiliate. So that's what we'll do, and I'm going to get the recordings of, well, I'm not going to tell the recordings of what I'm going to get. I seem to remember something, and I cannot believe it has slipped through the cracks. But it's good. It's good. It's funny. We may need to make this a... I got to write something down because I just found out about this. I don't want to forget this date. I just had a little tip. All right. So, follow me on Twitter at Paul Harrell 1776. Janet Crow says, please, Paul Harrell, keep playing the Dan Douglas, quote, speeches. You can't make this stuff up. Oh, gosh, I really want to. I really want to. Oh, well, do we have a few more? Yeah, this is pain point politics right here. Pass our
We
tax.
see what the budget is. Everybody wants, or a lot of people want to cut taxes. Other people want to fund certain projects. We have to have money to do that. We don't have a goose that laid the golden egg.
What would Dan Douglas? What would his internet purchases look like? Mostly they'd just be purchases from Zappos.com or Wrangler blue jeans that he paid the sales tax on when he bought them at the store, Tractor Supply. And these are his words, not mine. The same pair of blue jeans on the same fat body, one bought on the internet and one paid sales tax and the other didn't. That's the same pair of blue jeans. It's actually not the same pair of blue jeans.
No, it's not.
If we're really talking about matter here.
Yeah.
And space time. They're not the same.
What I really want to know is, did Dan Douglas feel dirty after he bought the Wrangler blue jeans online?
I know.
Did you just feel horrible?
Cheat.
Feel like a cheat when
what
you bought
a tax cheat.
Did you feel that way?
By the way, we started all this just to say, I want to reiterate, South Dakota, the Supreme Court in South Dakota has said that this internet sales tax stuff was unconstitutional. Just like we all told you it was. Now South Dakota has heard their internet tax law, and whoop-de-doo, guess what? It's unconstitutional. I just want to reiterate, it's been a 5-0 decision with the South Dakota Supreme Court. And yet it was Jake Files who was carrying the other internet bill, not this one. This was 1388 that he was carrying. Dan Douglas was carrying. Hang on one moment. Let's get back to the pain point politics, shall we?
If you have special projects, if you want to fund pre-K, you have to vote for this bill.
You gotta vote for this bill.
If you want to fund highways,
if you don't want kids to die.
If you want to do tax cuts,
you want to fund
here's
pre-K?
the money. We have to decide how to divvy it up.
Yeah, I bet you
in
do.
total,
I bet you
This
do.
could amount to $150 million.
You know, that's got to be what John Wood said at some point to, some of his money launderers. We got to decide how to divvy this up. No?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, in lots of bills, there's always something we don't like. You know, that not all of them are perfect. This one, there's some things I'm not real
This is on the veterans bill. This is on veterans tax.
One thing
January
I want to mention
30th.
here is the tax on the digital downloads. We all look at things different. Oh, it's a new tax.
It is. It
We're
was.
raising
You
taxes.
passed it.
It's a new tax.
You raised taxes on us.
Let me give
Congratulations.
you my take on it.
Well, let's hear your take.
In 1972, I bought a Led
You mean
Zeppelin
two or
4
toe?
album for the song Stairway to Heaven. Okay?
This
in
is it. This is what I was looking for.
1974, I bought a Doobie Brothers 8-track tape for the song Blackwater on
This
it.
is it.
Anybody remember that
This
one? It
is
was
it.
good. In 1995, I bought a CD, a Shania Twain CD. It had a song on it I liked and I wanted. Whose bed have your boots been under? So, the thing all these have in common is I paid sales tax on each one because I bought it and used it. I paid sales and use tax on it. All right? Let's go forward. In 2011, I downloaded, believe it or not, I can do that. I downloaded a Lady Gaga song, Born This Way. Any woman that wears a meat dress, I've just got a lot of respect for.
Oh, my gosh.
But
this is the problem. The kind of junk and garbage that Dan Douglas is listening to. No wonder he doesn't, want to listen to Born This Way. Born This Way. Unbelievable. Born This Way. And he says, anybody that's wearing a mite dress, I got to amend by wearing a mite dress.
On each one, because I bought it and used it. I paid sales and use tax on it.
Yeah, but you also were handling the physical product, number one, versus what is a digital download? Is that what is that? It's tangible good, right? You can hold it, right? Is it just is it what? What is it digital? Is it just, what is it? Ones and zeros? That's basically what it is? Or is that analog?
That's not a basic. That's what it is.
Oh, that is what it is.
Ones and zeros.
How do you,
ones and zeros is just coding. That's all.
It's just the code. Digital is really the way it's like reassembled, right? You split up into a bunch of pieces, then reassembled at the other end.
No.
Well, that's how. I mean, that's not a part of the digital thing. Well, I don't know, but whatever. Well, what would you say? Well, tell me, Joe. Correct me. I want to get this right.
What is digital?
Yeah. What is a digital download? We're talking about how it's downloaded. It's certainly on the internet is split up into a bunch of pieces and then reassembled. That's why the internet's so good. I know that's how the internet works.
Okay. Yeah. Well.
So.
That's essentially what it is. It's a bunch of ones and zeros, and you buy it.
Yeah.
Online.
It's completely different.
If you buy a song, you don't get to hold anything in your hand other than the device you bought it on.
So let's take it a step further. If it's not ones and zeros, is it the pixels on your computer screen or on your iPhone or iPod or whatever? Is that how are you going to tax that? How are you going to claim that you get to tax that? Those are just pixels of light on a screen.
They're going to tax you for every one, but not every zero.
Everyone but under zero. Well, that could be a who's on first. Back to State Representative Dan Douglas.
All right. Let's go forward. In 2011, I downloaded, believe it or not, I can do that. I downloaded a Lady Gaga song.
Yeah.
Born This Way. Any woman that wears a meat dress, I've just got a lot of respect for, But I did not, when I downloaded that, I did not pay sales and use tax on it. Why not? It's the same
technology.
Product. I downloaded music. I bought music.
Not the same product. It's not the same product at all. It's not the same product. Doesn't sound the same as a CD. It doesn't. It's not the same. Not to mention you don't have the plastic disc, the plastic case. You don't have any of that. You don't even have a delivery. I mean, the delivery is the internet. The delivery is amazing and convenient. And you guys are just sad you didn't figure out how to tax this before it got so awesome.
I listen to that.
The only way to limit government is to limit how much money they can get from us. It's the only way to limit government.
Time on this, the same way I could on that vinyl album, yes, I can. It's just a different media. It's an evolution. It's a metamorphosis of how it is delivered. Yes, we have not been collecting sales or use tax on it, but it doesn't mean use tax under the law was not due and payable.
Then collect it, Dan.
Under our current structure, we have been allowing our citizens to purchase.
I think we should create a new government position of tax collector, and we should let Dan Douglas be it.
And evade taxes.
I'm joking.
Because use tax is due and payable on all these items. That's my viewpoint on this. I don't consider it a new tax. It's something that we should have been collecting all along. And yes, Representative Meeks, there are some concerns, but we will have some bills to address that coming up in the future.
Hey, you know what? In the meantime, we definitely know Dan Douglas, of all the country stars that he would be attracted to, it's Shania Twain. And who saw that coming? Go ahead, Joe.
But I think we should give him that job. Here's why.
The tax collector job.
Here's why. Here's the rules of the job. He can only collect taxes from the internet sales tax that you're supposed to remit, like that very small percentage of whatever we're supposed to remit, and then his commission is based off how much he can collect. Good luck, Dan.
But he has no access to law enforcement. He just has
none whatsoever. Yeah. He's just a person going around collecting sales
All he
tax.
can do is make speeches. That's only the authority. He has the authority to make a speech in any public place ever. Even private places, he could just listen. You guys how many y'all shopped on the internet this week? You guys owe us a use tax, voluntary collection out here at the front of the restaurant. Interrupts theater, movie theater movies and plays and stuff. Excuse me, I'm Dan Douglas. I'm here to collect your use taxes.
I just had the most ridiculous image put in my head. To the rhythm of the song, Dan Douglas taking a pair of boots and walking forward slowly and putting them under a bed.
Well, maybe we'll make that in our first video parody once our Patreon subscriptions continue to increase. Go to patreon.com/thephp and help us out so we can give you more and better content. We got to take a break, folks. You're listening to the Paul Harrell program. Back in just a moment.
Bob Maloney here from ASA News, The Parrot. Breaking news from the Capitol in Little Rock. Over now to our new on-site reporter, Susan Shenanigans. Susan?
Thanks, Bob. The governor has just announced that a blue ribbon task force is to be formed.
Today, I'm asking your support for a blue ribbon legislative task force to be created and directed to recommend further reform.
Now we go live to the chamber to listen in for more information on the task force.
I hereby call this session into order. First on the agenda for today is the formation of the Blue Ribbon Task Force. Is there anyone who would like to give their thoughts on the task force?
Yes, as someone who is deeply conservative, why is the governor choosing the color blue for this task force?
Sounds like he's really a Democrat loyalist. Why not a red ribbon to prove he's a true conservative?
Well, I represent Walmart, and we agree with the color of the task force ribbon. The color blue is best consistent with the Walmart brand.
I object to this choice. Blue is the wrong color ribbon for this task force.
Well, who are you?
I am Mr. P.C. Wrights, and I represent Target, and we want the ribbon to be red, not blue.
Hold it right there. This seems like a tough decision. Why not ask the governor to call a special session at a later date for an important decision as this?
I think this is something worth talking about. I motion that we decide the color of the ribbon today.
I second it. Fine. We can decide it now. Does anyone have any other suggestions for the color of the ribbon?
I think the color should be white.
Whoa. Hold on. Definitely not white. I agree with Mr. P.C. Wrights. Maybe we should choose green for the farmers.
You like the color green because you are a farmer. I think it should be purple, so we can display how Arkansas is an extremely moderate state.
Why are we even discussing this? Shouldn't we be talking about tax reform instead of wasting time with this?
Well, the people have spoken. They believe this is worth talking about, so we are deciding this now.
Excuse me, sir, but shouldn't the color of the ribbon be rainbow to include all types of people?
Please, silence your phones.
I just received a call from Walmart HQ, and they agree with, what was your name again? My name is Fabulous. They agree with Fabulous that the color should be rainbow.
Target concurs with the decision of it being rainbow-colored ribbon.
Is there a motion to make the ribbon rainbow-colored?
I motion to make the color rainbow.
I second the motion. The motion carries because I said so.
The committee will now vote and not be on record to keep the people in the dark. Back to you, Bob.
Thank you, Susan. And thank you for listening to ASA News, The Parrot. Next up, there are reports of a gorilla on top of the Capitol Dome demanding massive sums of taxpayer cash. His name? Medicaid expansion.
PHP Parody.
So, liberal news outlet, just to give you a little bit of a national perspective right now, as we have the news that Asa Hutchinson is backing the Graham Cassidy new Obamacare repeal effort. The liberal news organization Slate is talking about Rand Paul, and Jim Newell did an interview with Rand Paul. He's a writer over at the Slate. This is a quote from this article. I had thought that it was completely dead, gone buried, and there wasn't going to be any more attempts. This is an interview that was conducted on Monday. I'm kind of surprised that this has been resurrected because I don't think it's been fully thought through. Well, that's what they always like to do. They make the bill behind closed doors. They put it out with their initial carefully crafted language, and they hope that nobody can figure out what exactly they're doing on the other side. He goes on and says, Paul said that 2 weeks ago he would have given the Graham Cassidy bill a 0% chance of passing the Senate, but now he's worried. He doesn't even have to go back 2 weeks. He told me last Tuesday that he gave it 0% chance. That seemed like an accurate assessment at the time before the Republicans' rousing pep rally last Thursday at the last Thursday's caucus lunch. The pep talk has not moved Paul, and now by the sound of him Monday afternoon, it won't. If that holds, it could spell Graham Cassidy's end. Paul describes the bill, which replaces Obamacare's subsidies and Medicaid expansion with block grants to states for their own experimentation, as one that keeps 90% of Obamacare and redistributes the proceeds. He calls it just a game of Republicans sticking it to Democrats. This is interesting. Listen to this. It just looks like the Republicans are taking the money from the Democrat states and giving it to the Republican states, he said. He observed, too, that if Graham Cassidy were to become law, Democrats could later adjust the formula used to determine block grant amounts to favor blue states. Quote, so we're going to go through year after year of Republicans fighting Democrats over the formula. Now, of course, we know why Asa Hutchinson's a fan of it, because he wants the whole reason he wanted the other Obamacare repeal efforts to fail is because it was going to reduce the amount of funding they got for Medicaid expansion, which would mean Asa Hutchinson would have to man up and say, we have to end the program. We don't have the money. We simply can't afford to give you what you want for free. But now if the federal government just continues, the Obamacare taxes would stay. I understand that they would repeal the individual mandate, which would be, the only good thing about it. But there's so much. This is just a bigger issue here. You know what the big issue is? Asa Hutchinson has an office in Washington, D.C. Did you know that? Did you know that the governor of the state of Arkansas staffs a person in Washington, D.C.? Now, Asa's chief of staff is named Allison Williams. She is a Democrat. Before Michael Lamro had to resign because it was obvious that it didn't look good that he was taking $120,000 from, lobbyists. Before Michael Lamro resigned from the chief of staff position to pursue careers elsewhere, no one ever resigns and says, it's always a cover story here in Arkansas, and the mainstream media in Arkansas buys it. Before that happened, Allison Williams was the chair. The governor's now chief of staff was she was not chairing. She was the staff person. She was in charge of the governor's Washington, D.C. office. Now, we've since known, thanks to some of my reporting, that she donates to Democrats like Warwick Saban. Her name appears on the campaign reports. So there's that whole situation. But if you, I was at the Tea Party meeting. There was a very interesting story this weekend down at the Arkansas Tea Party Alliance. I was talking to somebody who had a meeting in one of the senator's offices and just was waiting up there, wanted to meet one of our senators. And they got a question about, he was sitting there and there were members of the office, there. And the question was, hey, do you guys ever talk to the governor? Do you ever talk to Asa much? And the response was, oh, yeah, we talk to him all the time. We talk to his office all the time. And that's when he realized that they have an office very close and like once a day is what he said. He was told, yeah, we talk to their office like once a day. And it's not the first time, but I've got that story about Asa's office in Washington, D.C., and I'm really sorry that I've neglected. Like, a lot of you might have a lot of questions about what goes on there or why. That office is there to keep the governor, in my opinion, up to speed on anything coming down the pike that he needs to prepare for. And specifically, the governor always wants to appear like he is not in disagreement with the Arkansas delegation representing the people in Washington, D.C. Now, if you were reading the headlines and watching the news reports, that was really hard to do because Asa actually, no one really reported on it, but he was at odds with the votes that were taken on Obamacare repeal originally. He was at odds with them. But I'm just telling you, that office that the governor staffs in Washington, D.C. is there to keep tabs on what this senator's doing, that senator, this representative, that congressman, whatever, to be able to report back to make sure we're all going to look like we're on the same team, even though we may not be. And I'm telling you, they're not on the same team in many regards. They're just not. Phone number 870-275-9799. Again, folks, become a Patreon subscriber today. You're going to get a huge treat. Tomorrow, our impression of the session video is released for our $5 a month subscribers and above. The most comprehensive look, a montage at the impression of the session interviews I've conducted, countless interviews, and you're going to get a great resource, a great tool to say, hey, look, this is how bad. This is really the state of things, the state of the conservative movement in the state of Arkansas, and you're going to hear it from the legislators' own mouths, and it gets released tomorrow at noon. You're going to be able to hear the impression of the session montage, and we're going to actually also have some preview clips to play here and there because I really think you guys are going to love this. Also, you'll get our first Wednesday weekly that we recorded last week for our Patreon subscribers. So it's patreon.com/thephp. We'll see you tomorrow. Arkansas, be safe.